behind the ears of the bestest best boy. Hey buddy! And we are hacking down again to our little local sand school. So I want to do some pole work with him. My aim for this winter is to do loads and loads of pole work with him, really, and try and work on his paces, improve his canter and his walk, to really start to get him working properly. Now he's, well, in a few months he'll be rising 6, so he'll be of an age where he can really start to do some proper stuff. But yeah, so normally in the winter I do manage to stay doing pole work in my fields. However, after the monsoon we had yesterday, the fields are now very soggy. A couple of dry days will probably be enough to dry them out enough to be able to do some stuff there, but today is beautiful. I mean, look at that blue sky. It's so warm, so different to yesterday. So I thought I would make the most of the nice weather and we would go down and do some pole work. Not brought Ace with me today, a little bit pushed for time, so just brought the one, not doing Ace any harm to have a little bit of time off. She'll be turned away for the winter in the kind of probably in January anyway. She'll have a month off, which I do with my youngsters. Melon will probably have a couple of weeks off at some point as well, just so that they can grow and mature and process things. But for the moment, just bringing the one little boy out to have a little bit of a plod and do some pole work. So I will get in touch with you when we get there. See you in a bit. So here we go, this is what I've set up. So I have 4 trot poles on the centre line and then 2 canter poles on the EB centre line. So the idea is that I'll help keep us straight, and then we've got 2 jump wings to raise up those canter poles as needed. So it will be a case of working him through them. Hopefully they're about the right stridings and going from there. So here we go. I'd already warmed up with the hack over, so I was able to start him pretty much straight away over the poles here. So he started off quite tense, quite joggy, so I just wanted to walk him round, let him have a look, have a see at everything that was going on, and have a judge on the poles, and it would also give me a vague idea as to how good the striding is. So here I am, again, like I say, just walking around. Well, I've walked him over the centre 2, and I'm now going to walk him down over the 4 in the middle. It was at this point I realised I hadn't actually put them on the centre line. As you can see, I'm riding pretty straight down the centre line there, and I am not in the middle of those poles at all, but I couldn't be bothered to get off and sort them out, so we just rolled with it. So again, we're now coming round, put him up into a trot quite quickly to try and get him to calm and relax and think about his what he's doing with his feet. And so we just had a nice little trot round, trot over the canter poles to begin with, before coming and doing the trot poles in a second. So there we go. I'm just going to pop myself up over the trot poles, make sure all my stridings are correct. And there we go, nice and perfect. So I'm just doing lots and lots of different patterns with him. And, keeping a nice contact with him. But once he wants to start stretching, I will let him stretch down. But trying to keep him all nice and collected and contained at the same time. So yeah, coming round, like I say, doing some figures of 8 over the middle 2 poles, as well as making sure I come down. Oh, I put in a little bit of lateral work there just to try and get him to soften a little bit around my inside leg, because he was a little bit tense and in there. So here I am, like I say, going down the centre line, and I'm actually quite pleased with how straight he is. It's not perfectly straight, but he's still a baby, still can be a little bit wobbly, so it's nice to see him straight being a little bit straighter. And I'm also quite pleased with his contact and how he's looking. So again, he's still quite tense at this point, still a little bit rushy, but, he's maintaining a rhythm. It's a slightly faster rhythm than I would potentially like, looking back at it now. But it felt quite nice to ride, and he is accepting the contact and judging his own stride to the poles quite nicely and adjusting himself without too many problems. So I've left pretty much the whole schooling session in, so you can see what I've done. I've just cut out some walk breaks and me adjusting the poles. You can see he's starting to get a little bit deep here in his contact. This is something he does quite a lot. It's his conformation, his age, it's how he balances himself. But equally, he is also starting to get a little bit longer and lower, which is really nice. So he's always quite tense and upright. But as you've potentially seen, I did a session with him with the Equiami lunging aid, and that seemed to start helping, and I really felt it in this session. So it might be something I keep up with. Not really been a big fan of training aids before, but you've got to try things, so that's what I'm doing. So again, I'm just keeping up. I'm doing a lot of trotting around at the moment, a lot of trotting over poles, lots of changes of rein, making it so he has to listen to me. And there we go. We are actually starting to get a little bit of a neck stretch down, a little bit of a stretch over his back, which, like I say, really, really good for him because he does tend to be very upright. And so the whole point of this session was to start trying to get him to be a little bit longer and lower. So yeah, really, really pleased, and I'm letting my reins get a little bit longer, and he's really starting to take the contact down with it. So, super happy, and he's really starting to swing through his back and his spine as well. Which again, he's very short-backed, he's very compact, and he's obviously a cob. So all of these things are things he's conformationally going to struggle with. That wasn't a very straight line. We're just going to ignore that. Yeah, conformationally he's going to struggle, but it's still something we need to work on with him to get him to work through his back. So loads and loads of pole work is my plan for this winter, doing similar things to this, just to get him all nice, soft and round and happy. So now I've popped him up into the canter, and I'm going to canter him over these middle poles. So they are at quite a long distance. I knew they were going to be at quite a long distance, but that's something he's going to have to try and work on, and allowed us to really work on the quality of his canter so he can make that longer distance. Bearing in mind he is only 13.2, so this is set up as a horse bounce stride, so it was always going to be something that he was going to find a little bit trickier and a little bit more difficult to work with. But super happy when I could actually ride him. So there he put in an extra stride, which is entirely my fault. I pushed for a long one that he couldn't really give me. So, popped him back into a canter and just was like, come on, let's actually try and sort this out. And there we go, we did it, but he kind of half changed his lead, and, because he was really reaching for it and really stretching. So come around again, I caught off his back a little bit and was like, come on, mate, let's sort this out. And although there was some dodgy striding in there, he did actually make the distance. And by this point, I felt he was getting a little bit tired, so I did bring him back to a walk and give him a quick walk break. Oh no, I didn't. I popped him over again. I lied. That went really badly. So I've cut out the walk break, changed the rein, and we're coming at it on the other rein. So again, trying to keep him round and forwards and contained. So there he would hit the first pole nicely, but then was splitting over the second pole with his front legs. So I came round again with a bit more canter. We did this a couple of times where I just wasn't quite getting the quality of the canter right coming in. Entirely my fault. I'm not blaming him at all. Like I say, I knew this was going to be quite a difficult exercise for him. So again, coming round with a little bit more push, and there we go, we actually got that. So again, I think I brought him back to a trot and gave him a quick walk break here because he offered what I wanted from him. So again, changed the rein, gone back to his harder rein, and we actually managed it on the other rein as well. I did it on the circle at the other end of the school because he was finding it easier. Down at this end of the school there is a puddle that he was struggling with, which didn't help the scenario. So then he got what I wanted, so I gave him back to a trot, and then a bit of a walk. I gave him another little breather. So now you can't really tell, but I have raised the two canter poles up on alternate ends. So because he was finding the left rein easier than the right rein, the way I raised them made the right rein easier. So the side of the pole that's lower on the second part was on the inside for the right rein. So I did that intentionally just to try and because he was finding that side trickier, so that's fine. But I started off, I wanted to just come and chill him out again because I'd had to get off and sort out poles and things, so I needed to get back on, get him thinking a little bit more relaxed again, because he's one of those ponies that once you've got off trying to sort things out and got back on, he gets very, very tense. So I got back on, walked him over the poles. I feel like I trotted him over through the middle poles as well, just to try and get him relaxed and swinging again before I asked for the harder exercise. It's one of the problems with doing a lot of schooling on your own is you have to get off to sort things out, especially with poles. And so you have to like have breaks. So it's good that the ponies get the walk breaks, but it's also harder because you've got to get off, get on, get off, get on, and that becomes more difficult. But I was really pleased with actually how quickly he settled back into his work. So you can see here he's already starting to stretch down again into the contact, even though I'd literally only just got back on. So he is starting to really stretch down again into a nice contact, and so I don't think it's long before I pop him back up into the canter and try the exercise. I've also shortened my stirrups up at this point as well, because I want to be able to really get into a light seat over the raised canter poles so that he can really use his back and his neck appropriately. Even though, you know, they're not jumps, I want him to be using himself in a similar way. So yeah, just having a nice little trot around until we... there we go. I've popped him up into the canter now, so I think we're going to come to the canter poles. As you can see, I'm in a slightly lighter seat here coming round. So we didn't really have much bend, which I wasn't really focusing on. And looking back at these videos, I wish I had focused on it more because I think he would have found it easier. But as you can see, he actually popped through there really, really nicely. And we just needed to get some bend round the corners. So that is in my head for the working on and the next time. But he popped through that really, really well, actually, considering how much he'd been struggling with them on the floor. So super happy with that. Gave him a walk break before I changed the rein. So here we go. I was just giving him a little bit of a walk break before I picked up canter on the other rein. So here I shortened my reins up, asked for a walk to canter, and we picked up the incorrect lead. So I brought him back to a walk again, and I was like, no, listen to the lead I want, not the lead you think I want. So we got it there. I couldn't really see it because it was right in front of the camera, but we did get a much nicer transition that time. So here we go, coming round again on the left rein this time to perform the exercise. So I'm not one to repeat the exercise thousands of times. If the horse has got it, there's no point doing it again. So there we obviously had a really dodgy stride coming into it, but that's fine. He got himself out of it. He picked his feet up, and I can really feel his canter starting to come together. I mean, there's never going to be a massive improvement in one session. Like, it's going to take time for him to build up those correct muscles, but he offered it twice really, really nicely. And again, I think I gave him a little bit of a breather before we came round again. I'd say he was struggling a bit more on this rein. I could feel it. We had a better bend, I will admit, coming into it. But that was really, really good. He offered that really, really nicely that time. I think I just asked once more on this rein. Maybe once, might be twice. Can't remember. Oh, I think I did it twice because there we got in really, really close. But again, he picked his feet up. He kind of sorted himself out, which is all I want from him is when we do get a bit tight or something, I want him to figure it out. And there we go. That was a really, really nice one there. So I feel like that is where I left him, yeah. So there, I was really, really pleased with that feeling. So I brought him back to a trot, and now I'm just going to trot him off using the poles to, again, get him to stretch down and be a little bit softer and rounder. So he is a pony that once you've gone into canter and done some harder stuff, he tends to get quite tense again in his work. So I wanted to bring him back to a trot and go, hey mate, like, we've done our canter work, but that doesn't mean that we're always going to just be cantering around in circles. You can come back to a bit of a trot. Maybe I lied, maybe I'm... No, so he just broke into canter over there. I was like, no, maybe not. So yeah, come round, do some just trot work over the middle poles just to get him down and relaxed and not anticipating the canter. I want him like soft, long, low, relaxed on both reins before I bring him back to a walk and walk him off. So yeah, this was like pretty much my whole session that I've shown today. Like I say, minus the walk breaks and me getting on and off to adjust poles and things like that. Just thought it'd be really good for you to see what actually training a young horse can look like. It's not like pretty, it's not necessarily fun, it's not always going out and galloping over jumps. A lot of it is really basic pole work, really basic schooling. But again, really, really pleased with him in this day because he was just really starting to feel like it was all coming together. He was relaxing down into a contact, even in sessions when he got a bit tense, like after the canter poles and I asked him for a trot, he came back quite well. which for him is brilliant, because he does tend to be one that once he gets himself tense and worried, he stays tense and worried. He doesn't come down from that quickly. So it was nice to see him actually come down and work really, really well through it. So here we go, just continuing our trot work over the poles, and I think in a minute I will bring him back to a walk. But I'm just after him being a little bit long and low and like working over his back as long as low as he can offer. So in an ideal world, I would like him much longer and lower with his nose kind of almost on the floor. But at the moment, he cannot offer that and remain in balance. Like, conformationally, that is quite tricky for him. So we're just instead working in the frames that he is happy and comfortable with. And the more he can offer, and I'm asking for short periods of time in frames that he finds more tricky, so bit longer down, bit more upright, just to start building those muscles and test him. But primarily we are working in frames that he is happy and comfortable in. So again, just coming down to the walk, to walk him off, still using the poles at this point just to try and keep him a bit more quiet. That was possibly the least straight centre line the world has ever seen, but never mind. You can see I've got, relatively long reins here, trying to get him to work into that contact and down. So I'm riding with quite low, wide hands as well. This is intentional at this point because that's where I want his contact to go. But he is actually starting to think about stretching down, and his walk is starting to become more rhythmical. So he's always been, I would say, walks a little bit like a camel. It's almost like he paces as opposed to walk. It is something that is coming together. It's worse when he's tired and it's worse when he's stressed. So this is another reason why I like to really use poles, because it does help him to become more rhythmical. So here we go, just have a nice little walk and a stretch over the poles. Again, I don't need a massively long cool down because we will be walking home after this, which is a half an hour walk. So we're just kind of using the poles to finish off, calm him down, bring him back down, and to go, hey, even whilst we've done the faster work, we can still come back and walk and still work at the walk. So here I added in a couple of smaller circles over the poles just to try and get that change of bend and relax and comfortable. So it's like they're slightly, I'll probably call them 10-metre ovals as opposed to 10-metre circles, because obviously there's a long stretch of poles in the middle, so it's not quite like a figure of 8, but just so that we're doing some changes of bend and trying to get him to relax. But this was pretty much where I left the session. I will be stopping this video in a minute. But as you can see, super pleased with him, super happy. He's such a good boy and he tries so hard. So here we are hacking back now. Super pleased with him. He did some really nice stuff, really starting to stretch down, which he really struggles with his conformation and type. He's much more upright. So really nice to start feel him start to step through and go long and low. Again, long way to go. Everything's always a long way to go with young horses. You're never there. But we are just now plodding back. But yeah, some lovely pole work, as you'll see. Lots to work on still. But as always, really happy with him. So I will leave you guys now in this beautiful sunshine. Really warm day. I am boiling. But yeah, leave you and we will see you next time, guys. Thanks. Bye.